The magic of the microphone. The magic of the microphone. The magic of the microphone. Good day to you all. It's a lovely day here in London. I've got the door and the windows open, so there's an amount of extraneous noise, but I don't think that'll be an issue. The Earthworks Ethos. Now, this might be a lengthy video, so I'm going to put chapters so you can jump to the bits you're interested in, or if you're in the mood, you can get yourself a glass of wine and watch the whole thing. Ethos means, the definition, custom or character, the set of morals, the set of moral beliefs, attitudes, habits, etc., that are characteristic of a person or a group. Now, my Earthworks timeline. Back in the day, I was looking to, I don't know, see if there's something better than the M88, which I liked and still like. But it was designed in 1962, and it just occurred to me, it's many decades on now, let's see what's available. Initially, I went to biodynamic, why not? And I noticed they had this V96C, and I arranged for the representative to come here and in the rehearsal studios over the road. I tried this out, and I bought it. But it's a funny thing, it's a good mic, but somehow, I don't know. I've done a review. Anyway, I guess maybe I'd got the bug to keep searching. And I think maybe I looked at this next. The Sennheiser E965. And yes, indeed, I would say similar to the biodynamic M88, but a condenser, large diaphragm condenser. Yeah, nice mic. Found myself wondering, is it better than the M88? I'm talking about this model of M88. It's similar. Don't know. Then, I think this came next. It was very expensive, the DPA de facto linear, which I'm going to be using in place of this when I'm reviewing this. I need something, and I didn't want to use the SV33 Earthworks because it ends up being all Earthworks. So this is a smaller diaphragm, I believe, and fast. That's what they were looking for. So I got this, but for my voice, even though I got the linear one, it's meant to go, I think, from 20 to, depends on the dB range, though, doesn't it? Anyway, for my voice, it seems a bit lightweight. There's just something about it. Next came the Earthworks, my first Earthworks. So I was reading and looking and listening to the reviews, and I thought, extended from low to high, fast and flat. And so, this was it. Sometime after having this, I reviewed it, and I called it La Bestia, the Beast, because with it just seems big, true, but just with some kind of little push, which I can't quite figure out. Just seems to have a little bit of a push to it. So I reviewed it, and time went on, and then, guess what? Earthworks got in touch and said, we'd like to send you this. The SV33. They did. And I used it in all sorts of ridiculous circumstances. Sometimes I used it live, I used it through a valve amp live. And obviously for recording and with students and so on. And it ended up being here as my go-to mic, just because it's the best I'd come across. And I even had a radio mic mounting thing which I put on here so I could take it easily to school and all over the place. So this became my go-to, the SV33. I reviewed the SV33, and of course Earthworks would have noticed, because I'm sure they keep an eye on everything that people are saying and doing with their microphones, as any company would, I imagine. And they got in touch again. I said, how about this? So this, as you know, is the SR314, and slightly, I believe, larger diaphragm than this. Small diaphragm microphones have been the Earthworks thing. You know, with the drum mics and all of them, you see them quite small. The lighter and smaller the diaphragm, I'm sure the faster, etc. So that's kind of their thing. This one has a slightly larger diaphragm, and it had some elements of the SV33 in terms, I believe the polar pattern's slightly wider. I like it. It has a hint of mascara, of prettiness. So mostly for me, still the beast. But this works well with a number of students. And I like it too. If I just tend to go for flat. But yeah, it's very gentle, the rise there. I've compared this to the Neumann KMS 105, which has a little bit too much prettiness for me, and the bass isn't there. This has the bass and not so much prettiness. So then guess what? Earthworks got in touch again and said, how about this? The EQing Pro. Again, smallish diaphragm. And this one, the EQing Pro, I was using here. After a while, I found myself missing the SV33, which I had been using. Not surprisingly, I suppose. But this is as much. It was nice to be able to leave this in the hood recording thing I've got over there, and not have to keep swapping about. And I used this, but I did find myself playing with taking some of the treble down and adding a little bit of bass. And I'm not an EQ person. EQ is EQ. You use it. Everything's got EQ anyway, whether you like it or not, because it's just you can't get it absolutely flat. So I don't want to be too fussy about that. But I found myself doing that. I also noticed that it worked very well when I listened back for speech on the rubbish speaker I have in the kitchen. Okay, speaker in the kitchen is mono and all the rest of it, connected to the computer. But just stuff I used to listen to YouTube and whatever, the computer. But I noticed it seemed to cut through very well, the EQing Pro. Then Earthworks got in touch and said, we'd like to send you a prototype, which is this, which has prototype written on the bottom. And they said, then have it for a while, use it, play with it, and then we'd like to arrange a video call, see what you think. So that happened. This turned up with this, which is slightly different. We'll go into in just a second. And they said, we've tried to capture the 33, which they know I like very much. So perhaps and I've got the range of voice perhaps to be able to be used as a guinea pig, if you like. So we had the video meeting. I immediately liked it. And as I was using it, I realized, yes, it's got some of the 33 about it, and I realized that I'd been missing the 33 with the EQing Pro. These are some of the notes I made at the time when I was using it and playing with it, if you will. I noticed a slight rattle. But I realized, when I took this off, that you can see there's I don't know if you can, there's an insert there which comes out, and there's another fine mesh screen. And the insert, I don't know if you can see around the edge, it's got cutouts. So if you like, what I needed to do, that was a little bit loose, so I just needed to open the cutouts a little bit so it was a snug fit. So that's what that that was, which I sorted out before I spoke to them, I realised. And I said at the time, great for pops, but some smoothing of breath, a little bit of volume reduction, I noticed. That's taking the foam off and using it bare, which you wouldn't do, but just to see what the foam is doing, because it's great for pops. But you understand with all this, you put something between this and the diaphragm, it's going to have an effect. So it's quite a tricky thing, it seems. You don't want pops, but you want the sound to get through, unadulterated. So I said that some smoothing of breath, some volume reduction. I added that the handling noise was great, and I liked, compared to the Icon Pro for me, the added or the unattenuated low end and low mid compared to the Icon Pro. And I said I noticed a slight lift in the highs compared to the 33. I was using this, some of you would have seen in the videos, but I had the Icon Pro top on it because for what I was doing, I wanted maximum clarity and I was prepared to tolerate some pops, but I think I'm quite good at not doing it too much. And maybe in a review situation like this, where you're not recording, well, you are recording, but a few pops perhaps don't matter, don't ruin the reviews, only if they're boof, boof, boof the whole time. So I preferred to use it, as I was going to use it for reference for other mics, I had this top on there instead of the original one, which came with the prototype when I got it. Now, the prototype confusion, because I'll tell you what happened next. It became my go-to, very happy with it, got my 33 back as near as practical without actually having the 32 and 33 you can stay over there, so lucky me. Eh? So it became my go-to work, very happy with it, worked well for my voice and good for comparisons, I say. I've told you why I used that grill. So we had the meeting, they said fine, As far as I knew, this was a kind of 33 or a nod towards the 33. So time went by, got back to school, I got busy, they got busy. And it's a prototype, just kept using it. And then I noticed that they'd released a microphone called called the Ethos, which looked very similar to this. But this, with this top on, will look very similar to that, as would any other number of mics they might be making. I don't know. So it didn't really strike me that what had been released was in fact what I had. I was still waiting to hear, if you will. But as time went on, I was using this and somebody said, what is that? And I said, well, no, it's not an icon, it's a prototype. So I did a very short video with showing the prototype thing in the back. But then Earthworks got in touch and said, what's that then? So what had happened was that we hadn't been communicating. I hadn't realised that actually I had the Ethos. And they were probably wondering, well, he's not going to review it. What's going on here? He's done this short thing with a prototype. So I got back in touch with them. Good thing, really, because I got back in touch with them and said, I didn't realise that, but before I go ahead and do a review, if this was a prototype, has anything changed? Because I don't want to review something that people aren't going to buy, the production sample. And as it turned out, yes, this hasn't changed. They kept all that's fine. They made some alteration to the pop screen. So this turned up, and with this pop screen in it. So it means now I have, yes, a complete production Ethos. The other good thing, because of the delay, was that I'd been using this a lot with the other grill on there, longer than I would have for most microphones to review, because I hadn't forgotten about it, but I just thought, oh, maybe not going ahead with this, and they've got something else. So that's what happened there. So there we are. This is the Ethos, and it'll be what you get if you choose to buy it. What is the Earthworks Ethos in terms of custom or character or a set of beliefs? Well, I've been talking to them back and forth over some years. And I remember talking to, I don't know who it was, the company, and they said, yeah, that the original founder, is it David Blackman? I'm not sure. It's on one of these mics here. If I can read it. It's got a signature. Looks like David Blackman, but I could be wrong. I think the founder of Earthworks admired the work of Eugen Bayer, the German pronunciation my German friend tells me. And that was about a number of things. It was about the speed, which is why it's got a mylar, very light diaphragm. About the speed, about extension. This goes from 30 to 20 kilohertz, which is quite exceptional for a 1962 design. So the speed, the extension, and not too much artifice in the frequency response, pretty much flat. As flat as you can get, really. There's got a little bit of a lift at the top. So that really, it seems to me, is the Earthworks ethos, maybe being influenced by this back in the day. The speed, so small light diaphragms, so that it stops and starts quickly, so the detail is there. They tend to have extended frequency response. Part of that speed thing, it results in going a bit above 20 kilohertz to 30, some above that, I think. And from my experience, mostly flat, no roller coaster stuff that's initially impressive, but then becomes a bit tiring, I find, after a while. So, unless I'm mistaken, I think that's kind of where they're coming from. Okay, that's that section over with. So now I'm going to get my my crib sheet and do the standard stuff that I do when reviewing microphones. So it's been updated slightly. And I'll get on with that. What the manufacturer says. This is from the Earthworks website. Groundbreaking performance, as comfortable in a traditional broadcast studio as the desk of a streamer, and other stuff. Some of you may know, I understand you have to sell things. What are you going to say? Got a new mic. It's very good. So everybody says their thing. You can check that out on the website. Moving on, minimal handling noise, ultra-fast 11.67 microsecond rise time, whatever that means. I'm guessing it means 11.67 from still to full with a transient. Anyway, custom foam wind screen. They mention about this, about the speed, which I've noticed to be so, I believe. They say that the speed is related to what it means to you is the initial transient response, which affects timbre, texture, and air. They go on to say 20 Hz to 30 kHz, and it's supercardioid polar pattern. I'm going to put the graphs on screen and have a quick look. Bear in mind that people say when they're measuring speakers and so on that they used to have a within plus or minus 3 dB. So you can see that all that variation is within plus or minus 3 dB. The reason they said that is they thought that humans couldn't really hear. If it was less than 3 dB, people couldn't really tell any difference. So it's pretty flat, particularly that lower end from 0. We notice that from 100 to 1K, there's a very slight broad lift, then flat for a while, and then slightly down between 3 and 5K, and then up at 7, a little dip, and then up at 10, and then tailing off down to about 20, and then regain some, a little, up to 30. Now, we'll look at the polar pattern, even though I'm not so interested in looking at polar pattern graphs, though they're informative, I'm sure. I use my ears. I might say I'm kind of pleased with myself, because I hadn't seen these graphs. These graphs weren't published when I had this first. And I think that's pretty much what I said to them. What I said was added low and low mid compared to the Icon Pro, and a slight lift in the highs compared to the 33. And I guess maybe that's what we can see in the graph. So I'm only pleased, because if I said something entirely different, yeah. All right. I'm going to set the camera up from above and have a close look. I'm now speaking on the DPA de facto, and I'll show you this first, the mount triad orbit, which is excellent. Any orientation you require, and then locks firmly. So obviously this will be mounted on there. The Ethos, well, not that much to see really. Very well made. Gold-plated pins. And as you can see, prototype. But it is a production Ethos. Not that you'll be doing this. Well, you might actually. Later in the review I've got something to say about this. Very good threads. Now I believe, very nicely made, I believe this is larger than the Icon Pro. I assume the diaphragm is as well. I assume it's not just the housing. It looks to me like a 314 size, but I don't know, and a 33, SV33 size. But anyway, I'm going to compare all the mics in another video. And this is the later, or the current, the production screen. Oh, didn't happen. This didn't happen on the other one. Excuse me just for a minute. Yeah, it's different. That can be removed, but I wouldn't if I were you. And you can see there on the one I had that was slightly rattly is because I just had to bend one or two of those out just a little, but this one's very snug. Everything very well made, as you can see. It'd be easier if I do this, I think, first. There you go. Well, on the pre-production one that I had, this didn't come off. So you can imagine already I'm thinking there's possibilities for, if you're using it in other situations, careful situations, you might want to, you might be all right with that. But anyway, that's for later on. Very good. Okay, I'm on DPA de facto, and I'm going to move over onto the Ethos. I'm going to say that again just so you get used to this a little bit. I've got to use some mic or other, so I've chosen this one because it's a smaller diaphragm and it's fast, etc. It's expensive. I'm on the DPA de facto, and I'm going to move over onto the Ethos. Now I'm on the Ethos. Now I'm on the Ethos. So what do I notice? I notice a bit more fullness there. And at the top, I notice that it seems smooth and detailed, and there seems to be a little bit of a rise to it. But it seems to be very nicely balanced. What I also noticed was, as soon as I switched across, was something about this, which I'm going to do later anyway, but just seems more natural and more open. Let's see what happens when I take it away, see how things hold up. So taking it away, you can hear the room, of course. There we are. That's quite some distance away. Bring it closer, bring it closer, bring it closer. Start to hear there, notice that it's coming closer. Bringing it closer, bring it in there, all quite smooth. Bringing it closer, bringing it closer. There's another increase in intimacy, I feel. Bring it closer, bringing it closer, bringing it closer, bringing it closer, and bringing it right up to my lips. Let me see about the proximity then. Just to give you some reference. So you can hear it's got more fullness in the bass, more accuracy, I think. I'll do the hiss, because I think it might have something to show. So I'm on the Earthworks. DPA. At the top there, DPA. Earthworks. The Earthworks just seems to keep going, even on my ears, which are not as young as many of you. And this just seems a little bit grainy to me. Don't know about you. One more time. Yeah, just seems sweeter to me. Something I have noticed, it won't affect most of you, but something I've noticed for me is that obviously I can't get as close to the diaphragm as I might like sometimes, because sometimes I'm going to be singing or making voiceover kind of noises, and I need the low end. But I've noticed that if I cheat a bit and come round to the side, so you can hear what's going on there, of course. Just mention that because you could be using it for anything, I don't know, weird stuff as well, noise of sound effects, any kind of stuff. So I can get closer by doing that, interestingly. There's another way of getting closer as well. Let's look at the pops. Done the Esses, really. Done the proximity, you can hear what happens, we've done that. The pops, perhaps a biggie. I've noticed something about the pops. I've noticed it's very good all over, all round. You've got to have something. Anything you have is going to affect the sound as a balance you've got to try and get. But I have noticed if I'm very close to it, right up to it, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Who do you think you're fooling? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Who do you think you're fooling? Very, very good. If I bring it further away, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Still very good. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Who do you think you're fooling? Who? If you're really clumsy as I'm being there, what seems to happen if you're further away is that obviously the blast of breath does this to the front of the foam. So sometimes I can hear a little something. Who, Peter Piper. But you're going to get, let's just compare. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Who do you think you're fooling? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think? There seems to be a lot of bluster and accentuated, I think, by something. Who do you think you're fooling? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Who do you think you're fooling? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Who do you think you're fooling? So very good. Shall I do this now? I think I will. Oh, polar response first, and then I'll come back to something. Supercardioid, they say. Here I am on the front. Here I am coming round to the side, coming round to the side, coming round to the side. Sounds much the same to me. Coming round to the side, starting to change there. Coming round to the side, coming round to the side. Tones changed a little. Coming round to the side, coming round to the side, coming round to the side, coming round to the side. And there, the rejection kicks in. Coming round to the side, coming round to the side, coming round to the side. Now coming round to the back. Now coming round to the back. And as you can hear, down there is the supercardioid lobe. Coming back round to the side, coming back round to the side, coming back round to the side, round to the side. There's round about there's maximum attenuation coming round, and it's coming on there. So as you probably know, the cardioid, supercardioid is tighter at the sides and sacrifices a bit there, as cardioid is wider at the side but reduces more there. In practice, you'll have to see. Well, handling noise. You're not going to handheld. I've been handholding it now, as you can see and tell. You may not. I tend to do all sorts. So the handling noise is obviously very good. You'll get some of that if you fiddle with it. This fits beautifully, I have to say, the connector. On a stand, very good as well. Something else. This now comes off. I know. So I'm going to. On the close-up, you've seen what's under there. So let's just see what difference the foam makes. I'm not suggesting, well, you use it like this, you could. But I think I can hear a difference. It's bound to. This is without the foam. This is without the foam. This is with the foam. This is with the foam. This is with the foam. This is without the foam. This is without the foam. And as I noted, I think, when in discussion with Earthworks, it's slightly quieter with the foam, not surprising, because it's got to go through something. And yeah, there's just a layer that's smoothed just a bit. That stands out a bit more, maybe. So what I'm thinking is, you could use it with very easily with this, which is a very fine, as you can see, screen. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Who do you think you're fooling? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Who do you think you're fooling? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Who do you think you're fooling? Dare I? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Who do you think you're fooling? Who do you think you're fooling? So it seems to me, if you want that little extra something, maybe using it for singing on a studio, then if you really want that, you can just take that off and use a separate screen, or actually get away without it, obviously, if you're being careful. Okay, I'm just going to go between these two, make some noise before I hand it over to the man. See what I feel. See what I feel. Well, I don't know. Is there anything to... I mean, I'm satisfied. Is there anything to criticize? Can't really think of anything. Oh, let me just do this. Let me just do the 100 hertz cut to try and get it closer to this so you can hear. This is with a 100 hertz cut. This is with a 100 hertz. The 100 hertz cut on this desk on every mic I've used it on does something I don't like, so I'm going to use the bass control actually, but this is a 100 hertz cut, and I'm going to go on to the DPA. This is the DPA. This is the DPA. So you can hear with the 100 hertz cut, it's cut too much. This is the DPA. This is the DPA. This is the 100 hertz cut. I'm going to get rid of it, go back to flat again. But this time now I'm going to roll off a little bit of 80 hertz. Let me take the bass right off there to make sure I've got the right one. There we are. So let me roll it off just a little, about to 2 o'clock. Is that 2 o'clock? Oh, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock off. Going on to the DPA. Now I'm on 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 the Earthworks. It just seems to be more open. I'm not comparing it to DPA. Well, I am, but I'm not, if you know what I'm saying. I'm going to put just a little bit more of the bass back in. Now I'm on the Earthworks. Now I'm on the Earthworks. Now I'm on the DPA. Now I'm on the DPA. Now I'm on the Earthworks. Put everything back flat. Is there anything that could be improved? Difficult to say. I suppose the only thing would be this enduring issue of having something in front of the diaphragm. But you've got to have it. So, yeah. If that were improved, it would be great. But I can't. I haven't found anything that's any better. Anyone that's done any better than that, really. And bear in mind what it's going to be used for. Mostly what it's directed as, obviously, as a broadcasting. I'm sorry, I forgot that. I should have said from the beginning, but you know that. So it's going to be for broadcasting. So all the stuff I'm doing really is above and beyond. Anyway, let's see if it works for kind of singing. You haven't seen the man for a while. So I'm going to hand it over to him. See what he has to say. Adios.
Maybe you're poor, maybe you have wealth, maybe in demand or maybe on the shelf. Whatever your situation, there's one thing you should do. Reject all automation and let me work on you. I'm Mr. Manual. Automatic's not my style. I'm Mr. Manually manipulate you, guaranteed to make you smile. Hey, call me Mr. Manual. Automatic's not my style. Hey, call me Mr. Manual, automatic's not my style. I like to manually manipulate you, guaranteed to make you manually manipulate you, guaranteed to make you smile. I like to manually manipulate you, it's guaranteed to make you smile. I like to manually manipulate you. It's guaranteed to make you smile. Yes. La consumada todoterreno.